The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
The convicted Idaho 4 mass murderer was apparently taking a series of selfies after he killed Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, and tonight they have finally been released by investigators. What do these images tell us about the killer, and could they have been used in the trial against him? Samantha Krebs was accused of the first-degree intentional homicide of her boyfriend, Joey Carnot, after he was found stabbed to death. But Krebs says she's innocent and that Joey stabbed himself to death. Today, Krebs took the stand and faced some intense cross-examination. And tonight, all the evidence is in, and it's time to hear from the jury. But first, political violence in Utah. Conservative political activist Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was speaking with students at Utah Valley University when he was shot in the neck about 20 minutes into his presentation. The shooting and the chaos afterwards all caught on video, and tonight we have all the latest details on this horrific tragedy. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And it was a shocking day for many people who actually saw what happened to political activist and social media star Charlie Kirk. It's all on your phones. You can see exactly what happened. And it's a brutal, brutal moment for a man who has spent his career trying to just speak to people from the other side. We know the politics of the country and the divide, etc. But Charlie Kirk's mission was to go to places and invite people to disagree with him and have that debate. And he always said, that's a way to prevent violence. We've got to keep talking to each other. And that was his mission. But his mission ended today when he was shot and killed out in Utah while giving one of those talks and responding to people in the audience who either agreed or disagreed with him. And it was all caught on video. So I'm going to show you the video up until the point of you watch the bullet pierce his neck and appear to hit his carotid artery and everything that happens afterwards. But it'll give you an idea of what was happening in the moment just before. And if any of you have seen him online, it was no different than what he has done hundreds and hundreds of times on campuses from coast to coast across the country. So I'll give you a warning, because if you haven't seen it, you may not even want to see this much of it, so you can just turn away for a moment. But now we'll take a look.
In America over the last 10 years. Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
And at the moment, he was answering a question about mass shootings. That was the question from the audience. And in that moment, someone shot and killed him. Now, I say someone because no one has been identified. There was initially a lot of video online of an older man with white hair being taken into custody. That individual, not a suspect for the shooting, but has been held for obstruction of justice because he seemingly was confessing right on the spot. But obviously there was no weapon there. They did a quick investigation, figured out he was not the shooter. But take a look at this. This was posted by the FBI director, Kash Patel, on X. The subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. We will provide updates when able. So they do have a suspect in custody, or a person of interest, depending upon who is giving out the information. I want you to take a listen to the governor of Utah, who spoke today as well, giving his perspective on what happened on that college campus.
This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. But I want to make it crystal clear right now to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
So you can see where we are in all of this. If this is in fact the shooter, they also said that whoever did it, they're only looking for one suspect at this time. They have no information that there's anyone else involved that they're looking for, but they have a suspect in custody. Let's bring in our think tank, get some reaction tonight. Joining me live in studio tonight, family law attorney, law professor Randy Kessler, criminal defense attorney, law professor Meg Strickler, and criminal defense investigator, he's the best, Charles Middlestat. Also an expert in firearms as well as an instructor.
I wouldn't qualify myself as an expert in firearms, but I have a background in security.
Security, okay, gotcha.
Military protection and so forth in my former life.
In your previous life.
Correct.
Okay, let's start from the legal perspective. FBI is investigating. The locals are investigating. Is this a state or federal case?
Federal, 100%.
It's going to be federal. I mean, state. Everybody wants to get their hands on this.
Well, that's the governor saying they have the death penalty.
Right, and the state has a case. But if there's a political motive, it's going to be federal as well, and feds always have clout.
And why is that? Explain to us why it becomes a federal case.
Because it's a politician, and because it was held at a place it was a university, and the gravity of the situation and who was murdered is why it's going to be federal. They'll find a way to find jurisdiction. I have no fear about that. And I guarantee with the clout and the money and the resources, they will do an excellent job investigating this and doing like the governor said, putting him away for years and years. Excuse me, we don't know who it is gender-wise, but I'm assuming it's a him.
Yeah, I think we're all assuming it's a him. It may not be. Obviously, there's a lot of chatter online, right? The chatter online has been huge in this case. I want to show you something. There was some video that was recorded, and this was posted earlier today on X by Chad Feldheimer, possibly shows a suspect on a building rooftop. Let's take a look.
Get right up.
Yeah. You think he'd already be in place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying. He just ran from over, where's my finger? Well, from over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying.
Now, and later this afternoon, another video posted on X by user Nick Sorter shows what could be the shooter on a rooftop from a different angle, and this appears to be after the shooting. Let's take a look. Can we make it bigger so we can see it? All right, up on the rooftop. Charles Middlestat, let's talk about this. We can see where that spot is relative to where the stage is. A lot of people are talking about 200 yards. How much expertise does that take? What are your thoughts about what type of background, someone who could pull this off with a single shot and strike someone in the neck?
Well, it's certainly feasible, and you don't necessarily have to have a military background or a special forces background or be a sniper per se. There are a lot of very good long shots and who hunt and do this as a hobby. But the issue here is you can see if that spec is in fact the shooter, you can see that there's a clear line of sight to Mr. Kirk. And in a security environment, this is the thing that we're always concerned about, is occupying the high ground. And it's the same issue we dealt with in Butler, Pennsylvania, with regard to President Trump's attempted assassination. In this case, Mr. Kirk obviously did not enjoy Secret Service protection. And so the type of, and this was an open gathering, basically. There was no screening, so there was literally a multitude of opportunities for anybody, either at close range or at a distance. It likely was a shot from a long rifle with a powerful scope, and someone who had a clear line of sight. I did hear earlier in the day that there was some eyewitness testimony about hearing noise like within the crowd, but as you can see, this thing, this setting where he was speaking is sort of in a bowl encapsulated, right. And you can imagine that the sound would sort of reverberate in there, and so I think it would be very difficult to ascertain from the sound where that shot would have come from.
But I don't think it would be anyone in the crowd, because if someone pulled out a rifle in the crowd, there'd be witnesses. Someone would probably take action and try
Correct.
to tackle the person on the way out.
Correct.
So if they're up on the roof. Now, let's talk about, where we are in all this, like security for who, right? So he's a social media star, right? Political activist, was very active, obviously, in the campaign, and in bringing out the young vote, is very outspoken and has toured campuses for years. He's only 31 years old, or was only 31 at the time he was shot and killed today, a father with 2 young kids. But does everyone need security now? Where are we? Because I wouldn't even think that he would need to have a team go out there and check the rooftops and things like that.
The answer is yes. Everybody needs security, and the sad thing is it's going to chill conversation. University is going to worry about liability and things happening on their campus and the bad press. And anybody controversial now, they're either not going to have them or they're going to spend a heck of a lot of money for security. I hope they spend the money on security and they don't just say no more speakers that have anything controversial to say.
Right, because if you have no more speakers, right, then that's like the point of someone doing this, is to shut down the freedom of speech and the exchange of ideas.
This sort of open air forum is what challenges security the most. And so I think what you're probably going to see is that speeches like this are going to happen in different environments where you can actually control, where you have either a single point of entry, where you can screen, where you aren't concerned about occupying high ground, where managing the security risks and are much more manageable and feasible without some super sophisticated or high-speed security team, and advanced planning and dogs and all of the various concentric rings that are necessary to adequately provide security to a speaker who, whether controversial or not, whether you agree, disagree, doesn't matter. The point is that we should be able to speak in this country, and this country is certainly as divided as I've ever known in my lifetime. And it is a sad day where free speech is at risk, and where assassinations are becoming increasingly frequent. But I certainly hope we don't get to a place where it becomes so discouraged or not feasible without extensive expense and a security team. That would be a really tragic thing for this country.
I think we're in another 9/11 moment, right? 9/11 or the shoe bomber, where everything changes.
Everything changes. I think you're right, Randy.
Maybe speakers have a box and you're going to be video to outside and 20 people get in.
We've got some updated information from the FBI director. An updated post by Kash Patel, the FBI director. The subject in custody has been released after an interrogation by law enforcement. Our investigation continues, and we will continue to release information in the interest of transparency. What does that mean?
That means that
was not the guy.
That was definitely not the guy.
And it gave time to whoever the guy or the girl was to put some distance between them and the crime. That's the worst.
It makes me have a deep sigh.
It's going to be very, very difficult to get away with this. We live in a world, a digital world now, where it is almost impossible to get away with it.
Well, let me ask you about the digital phone evidence, right? We use a lot of that. A gathering of 3,000 people. Are you going to be able to figure out everyone that was there?
No, and it may not be done through phone evidence. There's going to be, this is a campus, right? There's going to be video surveillance.
They said there was some CCTV that led them to this suspect, I believe, or at least a description of the suspect.
Keep in mind, they're working in real time. They're acting on CCTV as they're able to review it, and they see something, a possible suspect, so they mobilize and they act on that intel. but they're going to continue to digest all the other intel that they get in the CCTV. Think about how many phones are going in that. There are innumerable witnesses within that crowd that were running their phones and shooting video and taking pictures that are all going to be studied and analyzed by law enforcement.
Like the ones we've seen already here from the rooftop. Let me ask you this, though. If this person was interrogated and released, does that definitely mean he's not the one?
I'm going to say 98% yes, because they're not going to release him. Yeah, I'm always going to leave 2%.
It's not a case of how we don't have the ballistics back, or we didn't get a confession.
Not this quick.
They would hold him.
Not this quick.
If they had any reason to think it was him, they would hold him.
And
They'd figure out a reason and how to hold him.
And they're allowed to.
They'd find a reason.
Not this quick, yeah.
They would not release him
I can't
this quick.
imagine they have a suspected assassin in their hands that they just don't have the goods on yet, but they have good reason to believe is their guy, and they're just going to release him. They must have developed some other evidence to exculpate him. Or
wow. So tonight, what's the fear tonight, right? So obviously investigators, the FBI is going to be working with the locals, right, and the state. So you've got the folks from the university, but you've also got the state investigators plus the FBI doing all of that. In the meantime, there's presumably a killer that's on the loose right now.
That's who should be afraid. That's who should have fear, because...
But how desperate do you think this person will be, Randy? How desperate do you think it'll be? How dangerous if they find out who it is and they attempt to take him into custody?
But no one knows who he is, so he's not going to do anything, or she's not going to do anything to bring suspicion on. They're not going to take a hostage. They're not going to go on the lam. They're going to do whatever they were doing. That's who should be afraid, because that's who everybody in the world is looking for. And the worst thing, the hardest thing to do is to act normal. They're going to have to act normal, and they're going to slip up.
I think it falls in one of two categories. I think you either have an assailant that was trying to get away with this, or you have one that had no intentions of getting away with this and has some manifesto or has some other evidence out there that we just haven't stumbled into yet that would bear on their motive and their particular vendetta, or whatever their belief system may be, would cause them to carry out this assassination. And so, if it's the former, then probably they're less dangerous. But if it's the latter, then I think that's a very, very dangerous individual on the loose, and they could become very desperate.
Now, there's also he's received threats, and he has his own security detail. So I'm sure that is another source of potential leads, looking at where these threats were coming from.
Sure, but I want to follow up on what Charles said. If this person got away with it and said, oh my God, I got away with it, I took out somebody who I didn't believe it, are they going to do it again?
Are they going to do it again?
You know, I got away with it, I don't care if I die.
I think at this juncture, this person's hiding in the mountains somewhere.
So what this reminds me of is my old client, Eric Rudolph.
Right.
Yeah.
Who, as we know, did get away with it, and his first bombings were the Olympic Park bombings. He was actually planning on 3 separate bombings, and it got botched, and so he got away. And then, of course, we then had a gay nightclub bombing in Midtown, and then we had abortion clinic bombing in Sandy Springs, and then we had the Birmingham abortion clinic bombing. And so he continued to carry out his mission, which was he believed that when Roe v. Wade was legalized, that essentially it legalized murder, and anybody who was sworn to uphold the law was a legitimate enemy combatant. And so whether we have somebody who deals with a similar ideology that runs contrary to what Mr. Kirk was, Mr. Kirk's beliefs and what he was advocating or not, who knows? But I would say I would have to believe that he took exception to whatever Mr. Kirk was advocating, right? And so I think that's a reasonable thing to assume.
But was he working alone? That's the other fear.
Yeah.
And then I think that goes back to the jurisdiction issue. We don't know. We don't know anything about him. So where he's coming, where he came from would certainly determine what that looks like, and then whether he had any co-conspirators.
It can't be a crime of opportunity. This is just
this
is an assassination.
All right, think tank staying with us. Any more details come up during the course of the show, we'll let you know, obviously. But up next, we're going to take a look at the Idaho 4 convicted mass murderer. He's got some selfies that he took. Apparently, have finally been released. We'll show them to you. Get the kids out of the room. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the shocking stories of 2 young women and 2 dead newborns. Both women, cheerleaders, both facing criminal charges. Did Laken Snelling and Alexi Treviso kill their babies? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice.
You may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass.
All right, Mr. Kohlberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
There he is. Now, I'm about to show you some things that, you know, if there's kids, they probably don't want to see it. You may not want to see it. You might want to do like this, kind of like when you're looking at the eclipse, you know, get one of those cardboard boxes or something. But I'll start with this. You recall, this was a piece of evidence that we knew about, right? This was the post-shooting within hours or the same day where he took a selfie of himself, not post-shooting, post-killing, with a thumbs up, the killer. So kind of congratulating himself with his pasty face. We know about that one. Now we've got some more images that we're going to take a look at together here with our think tank. With me in studio, Randy Kessler, Meg Strickler, Charles Middlestat. Are you ready to see these?
No, I'm not.
Meg doesn't want to look at them.
No, I'm doing that with the eclipse thing.
Okay. And Charles, are you ready? You prepared? Let's take a look at the first one. Let's put it up. This one, kind of eerie to a certain extent, right? He's wearing the hoodie. What's interesting is I believe that these photos are not sent to anyone. They're just for his self-consumption. Let me ask you, anything here of evidentiary value that you would use as a prosecutor if we had a trial in this case?
It's prejudicial. Of course it's prejudicial.
It'd come in.
Probably comes in.
It comes in.
That doesn't mean he's a murderer, but it doesn't
Just shows he's psycho. Just adds to the psychoness.
He looks more like a murderer than an innocent person.
Yeah.
Why are you doing a selfie like that? That's so eerie and gross.
To me, like a picture
The Grim Reaper
is worth 1,000 words. Like, why is he taking these? Everyone takes selfies, but usually, like, you post them or there's a reason for them. What do you think the reason is for him just looking at himself?
I think he's just a narcissist. He likes seeing himself. So he's taking pictures. He's like, look at me.
Charles is eerily quiet on this one.
Well, because I try to be objective.
Yeah, I know. Well, let me show you the next one.
In a selfie world where everybody is taking selfies, it's kind of hard to. I mean, we know what a horrendous human he is at this point, but.
Well, let me show you the next one.
Whether we can read into this or not is.
And using your expertise as someone who lifts a lot of weights, is he in good shape? Charles.
I mean, he's certainly lean. There's no question about that. He's pretty skinny and lean, and he obviously is trying to pose there, but.
Well, to me, this is interesting because part of the history is that he was extremely overweight when he was in high school. Some pictures have surfaced of him overweight. He had several different extreme diets that he kind of went through.
You did the fridge thing. He was eating all vegan food, I saw.
Yeah, so he became a vegan. So he's really into, I guess, trying to be as thin as possible. Healthy. But he keeps getting rejected by women. That was part of the problem because he's a little bit creepy or a lot creepy. How much of that you think played into
women are smart?
Women are smart. Right, intuition.
Well, that could be interesting. Had this gone to trial, may have been part of the state's theory is that here he was overweight, and then he loses all and can't get any attention, and then he loses all this weight, and thinking that he's now going to be more desirable and going to get more women's attention. It doesn't work for him, and that's become sort of the, you know, what fuels his anger towards women. And who knows? I mean,
you need motive. You know, you don't need motive, but it doesn't hurt.
Right.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next photo, because this is the bicep pose, I believe. Let's take a look at that one.
It's laughable. It's a laughable bicep. I can say that.
I'm also looking at what's behind him, and this must be his apartment, the bachelor pad of sorts. To me, the thing that is really strange is it's just for himself. He's not sharing them with someone. It's not like he has a girlfriend and, you know, you send a little goofy picture over, hey, look at me with my muscles, or it's just for himself.
Unless it's like that movie Her, where he's in love with his cell phone, or...
But he's a loner. You know? He's a loner, I mean.
We can't explain this.
But why does he have to take a picture? Can he just look in the mirror?
Apparently
like, isn't the point of a picture usually
in this world that we live in, it's really hard to be.
If you could figure out why he did the things he did, then you'd understand why he killed somebody, which you could never understand.
Maybe that was day one of his plan to, you know, to work out for 365 days and document the whole thing.
And document it. Well,
I like your thinking.
The next photo does reveal what I would believe would be a strong evidence in the case. Here's a photo, but he does expose that left ring finger of his, and when we take a look at the next one and we zoom in,
oops,
there you go.
I can't tell you how many cases I've seen dumps of phones, and there are things on my client's phone, oops, where there's stuff on there that should not have been given to the government by accident, by photos of themselves. So there's example, Exhibit A.
Any sort of injury like that, particularly with the metadata behind that image, is what's going to be most important, because it's going to timestamp the date and the location and that time and the device that was used to take that image, and so it potentially has some real value.
And if we think about this, and for the guy who wanted to commit the perfect murder and get away with it and see what it felt like, etc., the knife sheath he leaves at the scene, and then on his phone he is putting incriminating evidence as well that would have been used against him.
He didn't think this was going to be found, and it's why nobody found it. It was apparently he deleted it in one form and it was saved to another place, and look, even the authorities didn't find it until now, so he thought he was...
No, they didn't release it until now.
Well, also, humans are not 100% perfect, no matter who you are, and that's normal. That's normal.
He's far from 100%.
But he thinks he's the smartest man in the room.
Well, therein lies the issue.
There's a reason that he took a plea, right? They obviously had some evidence that they presented that was so overwhelming that beyond just the...
Well, it's the DNA on the knife sheath.
Right.
Like, there's no innocent explanation for that.
No. But that was revealed early on, and something there was... I want to believe that there was some additional evidence that would have ratcheted up the odds of him surviving this.
He also wanted to keep his parents out of it because they were going to be witnesses. They were going to be subpoenaed. They were going to be part of this case.
Well, they helped kick him away. You're talking about Kohlberger's parents. They're the ones I think were, like, after the fact, helping him get out of town.
Well, did they know?
They had to deduce.
Did they know?
Or were they wearing those rosy-colored glasses and not looking at things? Come on.
But do you take a plea just to save your parents if you're innocent?
No.
Yeah. No, not if you're innocent. Well, we know he's not innocent.
Right.
Like that, the word innocent.
But I don't think he's protecting his parents.
Never entered the conversation here, Randy.
Like just now.
Okay, not until just now. All right, Think Tank's going to stay with us. When we come back, big day here on Court TV and the trial that you've been watching. Samantha Krebs, the defendant, takes the stand and faces a grueling cross-examination. Remember, this is the woman who said the victim stabbed himself.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Joey told me that if I leave that he's gonna kill himself. And after he threw the knife sheath, I was like determined to leave. But when I was gonna leave, he turned around and came into where I could see, because the kitchen is like half wall. He came into view and he was holding his side and he had blood between his fingers.
So what Samantha Krebs is describing there during her direct examination is suicide. She is saying that her boyfriend, Joey Carnot, stabbed himself to death, was threatening suicide, and then stabbed himself to death before she left. The neighbor came over, and then she kissed him and left and told the neighbor to tell police that he stabbed himself. So that's what the defense is that she didn't do it, that Joey took his own life. Now, that was direct examination. I want to show you the cross-examination.
So you ran to the bedroom to get some things, to get your drugs, right?
Correct.
Because right now the most important thing is to clear your apartment of drugs, right?
No.
That's what you chose to do. So you chose to do what was the most important thing to you at the time,
At
right?
the time, yes.
Okay, but you're not worried about the fact he is bleeding out in the kitchen, right?
I didn't think he was bleeding out.
His chest is gushing with blood, Samantha. That is serious, is it not?
It is very serious.
You left the apartment and you never called 911, ever.
Correct.
Ever. Did you?
I said correct.
And let's just reflect again. The last you knew, Joey was on the floor in the kitchen.
Correct.
He had gushed blood with you.
Correct.
He was in and out of consciousness.
Correct.
And so then hours later, you're wondering if he's at work, right?
Correct.
And so at this point in time, you're trying to create a story that you're not even there, right?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you were worried about what was on your phone?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, you had a conversation with your friend. In this phone call, there's a call where you said, who hasn't threatened to stab their boyfriend? Do you remember?
Yes.
And then you laughed, right?
Yes.
In fact, cackled might be a right word, right? Like a pretty good laugh.
Yes.
Okay. And this was after Joey was dead, right?
Correct.
And it was after you knew that he was stabbed to death, right?
Yes.
And this was funny to you because you laughed, right?
Yes.
Did you have any concern that your phone contained any evidence of you stabbing Joey?
No.
Did you have any concern that your phone would have contained any evidence of you threatening to stab him?
No.
Now, you said you don't remember if you ever threatened to stab him, is that right?
That is correct.
Would you have said it in a joking manner?
I don't think necessarily joking, but more sarcastic.
So not in any type of serious, you're going to follow through with this?
Absolutely not, no.
And you did hear a recording, a very short recording, of you joking who doesn't threaten to stab their boyfriend, correct?
Correct.
And that wasn't you joking that you stabbed Joey?
No.
I don't get what they're trying to do here, but...
I don't either.
You obviously didn't do what they, you know what I mean?
Right. Who doesn't threaten to stab their boyfriend at some point in their life?
Right. I agree.
My mom threatens to stab her dog all the time, so...
It's not like you thought he was going to do it to himself.
Right, no.
In that recording, it is in fact your voice who jokingly says who doesn't threaten to stab their boyfriend, correct?
Correct.
And you also said you never expected him to do that?
Correct.
Did you stab Joey?
No.
How convincing was she?
Who doesn't threaten to stab their boyfriend? Stupid.
We just talk about that,
It's
hiring
stupid.
hitmen, you know, this was what we do in this life, right?
But you know what? It's her word against what? I mean, there's nobody else there. She's got an explanation. She probably did it, but it's probably enough.
Probably
I'm
did
going
it.
to say probably, yeah.
This woman has so many problems, I can't even count them all. And I can't help but think that the physical evidence in this case, just take the crime scene processing. We're talking about an incised wound, right, that's going to have an angle to it that's going to be obvious whether it was self-inflicted or not, depending upon the type of knife that was used. There's going to be cast off, there's going to be blood spatter, there's going to be all sorts of other things that are going to be impossible, that are going to be inconsistent with him having self-injured.
But the medical examiner here was not a home run for the prosecution. The medical examiner could not figure it out. I think what sinks her ship is leaving. He's bleeding and you leave. If she stayed...
But she's afraid she's going to be accused of murdering him. You know, that's the same thing. Whether you're guilty or not, you're going to...
But you call 911 for people
She didn't think he was going to die.
Failure to render aid.
Now she's telling us that she didn't think he was going to die. It wasn't that bad. Why wouldn't you call 911 and just stay? Even if you're breaking up, like he's a human being.
But you know, she's also seen all these shows, all these cases we've been covering where the people don't defend themselves, don't testify on their own behalf.
I think it's meth.
And they get found guilty.
I think blame meth. Methamphetamine, that's what happened here. Brain wasn't thinking well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious for everybody involved in the storyline.
This one is literally like every single misstep you could possibly make, she's made. There is
closing arguments tomorrow. Quick verdict?
I don't think it's quick. I think
those are 3 hours, 4 hours.
I think it's
somebody's going to want to believe
super quick.
Super quick, right?
No, they always want to go through everything usually. They always are usually.
Quick verdicts we've been hearing lately, but no, a 3-hour verdict is still a quick verdict.
Well, I mean, to me, like the jury has a much better idea of everything that happened now because you have the defendant herself testify, you judge her credibility, you compare it to the other evidence. But to me, it comes back to just common sense, right? Like this whole story doesn't make sense. I don't know. There may be cases of people slitting their wrists, but this is like stabbing yourself.
This is the, it's the whole thing about a defendant who testifies on their own behalf, right? This is going to come down to whether the jury believes her or not. I suspect that the jury doesn't believe anything that's coming out of her mouth, and therefore, the moment she gets off the stand, they've already made their decision, right? Any of the good work that the lawyers have done on cross-examination or on any other part of the case.
It sounds like you're advocating for defendants to not testify if they're guilty.
No, I'm just saying in this particular case, there are exceptions where it obviously makes sense for a defendant to testify, but this doesn't seem like a good one. She's
not the most sympathetic person. She didn't engender feelings of, oh, this poor lady. She's not really, but, I don't know that she had much of a choice, right? She's got to say, she was there. If I was on the jury, and I know you're supposed to say innocent.
She could plead guilty. She could admit to what she did. I
that's an option every defendant has. No decent offer. It must have been a plea straight up. It must have been a plea straight up. I got nothing to lose.
They're allowed to do that.
Yeah. That's what happens a lot in our life.
It's like,
that
why
does
not?
happen a lot.
Maybe I get a hung jury, and so here she is.
We are forced to go to trial.
How common is that in a case where you don't get an offer? So
all the daggone time. Welcome to Fulton County, Georgia.
So you just got to take it to trial.
We have to take it to trial, or wait till the last daggone minute and then they drop the charges. Don't even get me started. Don't.
She is not.
Glad you're not naming names or counties,
Sorry.
Because there's a level of culpability, and you want to haggle on what that level of culpability is.
Well, no, I'm just saying when murder cases that I've had and RICO cases that I've had, they're so heck bent on getting the conviction that they won't listen. Now, on the federal level, just even today, the judge was saying to the prosecutor, y'all got to confer before you come to me. And that's normal in the federal system.
So a judge would put a little pressure on you to
confer and kind of get together and see what's going on.
You take the hint, the prosecution takes the hint.
Try to work it out.
Yeah,
yes.
But in the state system, it's less common that way.
In my humble opinion, yes.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well, is that it's up to us. Like, if we want to, we do. We don't, we don't.
You're the prosecutor, right? It depends on
as a prosecutor.
Oh, this is a good case. I want to go to trial. I haven't had an interesting case like this. It could be as simple as that. Shouldn't be.
So we're seeing a lot more defendants take the stand in their own defense. Why is that?
It's common sense.
That can be one reason right there.
They want to be heard.
Or they just don't trust the system.
Or they're watching court TV and every defendant that doesn't take the stand gets...
to get it right.
Yes.
They're watching court TV and every defendant lately that doesn't take the stand still gets convicted.
Yeah.
So what do you got to lose?
They want to be heard, too. They want to have their day in court.
You don't want to sit for 40 years in jail and say, if I'd only testified in my own defense, maybe the jury would have understood my side of the story.
You think Donna Adelson is regretting not testifying?
I do. I think she wanted to get her 2 cents out. I do. I think they stifled her. I do think she wanted to testify.
I think every defendant that gets convicted says, had I testified.
Yep.
Had I testified.
My lawyer,
Well, big appreciation. Randy Kessler, family law attorney. Great to have you. Meg Strickler, She's also a law professor.
I
It's easy
know.
to work
I
together.
made sure.
And Charles Middlestad, who investigates these cases from a much different perspective and unearths a lot of things that you might not otherwise learn. Thanks so much, Charles. All right, we've got a lot more to get to. When we come back, I'm going to reveal something else that you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the shocking stories of 2 young women and 2 dead newborns, both cheerleaders, both facing criminal charges. Can prosecutors prove that Laken Snelling and Alexi Treviso killed their babies? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. What's happening in the world of crime and justice? Very much alive. This is Ryan Borgwald. You may remember this story. We covered it months ago. This is a man who faked his own death and then fled to Europe to meet a Ukrainian woman that he met online. Well, he faked his death in Green Lake, Wisconsin, August 11th, 2024. He had this elaborate scheme on how to get away by pretending to flip his kayak over and use an inflatable boat to get to the shore, leaving behind his family, his wife and children. Take a listen to his police interview when he came back to the United States.
Hopped in the kayak, grabbed my stuff, and started paddling out there. The net sucked, but it wasn't awful. There's a headwind that helped get me out there quicker. Like you'd asked before, why didn't I just take the paddle out of the package that I had? Well, if you imagine, I did have one duffel bag with me on the kayak already. So I had a duffel bag, a toolbox, a tackle box. I had a lot of things on that kayak. It's not a super big kayak, and the waves were, I don't know, it was just like I was fumbling around a lot that night. And I thought the last thing I need now is to actually die. So I just decided to go with what I had. And then I got out there, and I was probably about ready to do it, but then like boat after boat, it seemed kept coming off the water, and I'm like, are you for real? Like, I didn't want to do it when someone was still in the water, so I was trying to wait for someone to not be in the water. And I don't know if they were just fishing late at night, or if they were watching the Northern Lights, or a combination of both, but I ended up staying up there later than I wanted to stay. I knew I had the bike right ahead of me.
Now, when he was brought into court, he ended up sentenced to 89 days in jail. Here he is in front of the judge.
I deeply regret the actions that I did that night and all the pain that I caused my family and friends.
And that's the worst part, right? What he put his family and friends through, his wife and his kids, thought that dad was dead, but he was over in Eastern Europe with a woman from the Ukraine, or someone who purported to be a woman from the Ukraine. I have a feeling it was a bit of a scam. All right, take a look at your screens, folks. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. Tegan Blake Webb, just 16 years old, missing from Spring, Texas since the 3rd of September. If you see Tegan, pick up the phone, make the call, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Conroe ISD Police Department in Texas. That number's on the screen. Let's see if we can get Tegan to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.